Okay, I finally came around to making this video. Part of the reason why I created this YouTube channel was just to have an avenue or just a way for me to just let my thoughts out on movies and stuff I just like in video format. And I grew up with DC, not the way I see some people did. I never read comic books or watched like old TV shows like the Batman stuff and the Superman stuff and the Justice League Unlimited or something, I'm not sure. Instead, I played like Lego Batman 2 on my Nintendo DS. And even before I got there, I was one of those kids that watched like YouTube walkthroughs of these games. And after that, I was just able to settle for the demos before the chance I had to beg my mother in the store to buy me the DS version of Lego Batman instead of the 3DS version, which would have probably been more superior. Still regret it to this day. And although over the years, we DC fanboys had to hide in the shadows because we were served these slops while everybody was on the Marvel train, and we had to hide in that side, I was still out there watching stuff like The Son of Batman and The Flashpoint. But for some reason, these shows were just put on a flat line. Because tell me why after Throne of Atlantis, they never aired any of these movies again, at least in my side of the world. But hey, as much as I know you want to hear the story of my life and how I grew up with DC, this video isn't about that. It's just about how I love the New 52 or the DCAMU animated films. And with that, we start with Justice League Flashpoint Paradox. And funny enough, this was one of the films I didn't like initially, but it took time for me to grow up to enjoy it. And I have a video actually talking about this movie in particular, but that's a classic film video if you want to go watch that at your own discretion. But we'll say for this movie to technically start the universe, they did a really poor job with its continuity. Like the following movies could technically be prequels set before this at some point, but that doesn't explain the fact that some of the voice actors were changed. I digress into the subsequent movies, starting with Justice League War, which is honestly one of my favorite films in this universe. You'll be hearing me saying that a lot, but there's this theme of these films losing their heart after Flashpoint and just being an 18-minute action sequence. And yes, that's true, but with this one we still see a good relationship. The Cyborg and his dad, one terrible father, but I guess they had to squeeze it in as part of the plot. But the one that stands out is the relationship between the three boys in the team, Batman and Green Lantern in particular, but Superman too had his moments with them. But I've seen enough TikTok videos to know that this was something we have to admit was like just amazing to see in, let me say, a modern format. And funny enough, this film is, I feel like maybe it's the comic it's based on, but it's really like the James Gunn, it's not the James Gunn, it's really like the Zack Snyder Justice League film. And I get the reason why Shazam was technically not in that movie, because his addition in this film is completely weak, I have to admit. And after that movie, we step into Batman's world, which we cannot escape in this universe. But I'm not complaining. Son of Batman, unlike Flashpoint, actually falls so much from my memory as one of my favorite films to one of my worst. Because unlike War, that could get away with it being a constant action film, with human connections being second to its plots, this really had to explore that Damian and Bruce Wayne relationship. By the way, is it just me or does Robin look like Astro Boy? But yes, it really leans into that Damian switching worlds from Ra's al Ghul's assassin machine to Batman's Robin, although it's dealt deeper and with more depth in the next Robin and Batman films and also the subsequent movies. And this entire film is basically Kung Fu Panda, with Slade and Tai Lung being like the same person. Then Throne of Atlantis was easily the worst film before another film in particular surpassed it. But it's more of the Justice League War action, but throwing in that Aquaman story too. But on the action, first, I found this weird that they had a harder time fighting Orm in this movie than they had fighting Apocalypse. And that was also with the additional help of Mira and Aquaman. But yeah, this film tries to set up more relationships here, like the Clark and Lois one, which I was wishing we got more of that before they binned it. I like the new adaptations and also just seeing the League being closer. We get Batman and Green Lantern, more of them doing their duo stuff. Even Batman and Superman team up, which are ultra rare in these films. Also Vic getting a super brief moment. But none of these particular things were brought up. Even Aquaman, like after this movie, we never really see him in any of the subsequent movies. Bit weird. But yeah, I would admit there was this one part with the Justice League all working together to like do their detective thing, which was super fun. Everybody saying their fun, smart thing, and then Green Lantern just being this doofus.
That's a barrel roll. These guys are skilled in 360-degree combat.
Agreed. Makes sense. Sound travels 4.3 times faster underwater. Whatever, Mr. Barrel Roll.
And then a trilogy of Batman and Robin's films next, starting with Son of Batman Part 2. This was surprisingly good. We got to see greater depth in the Batman world, or just Gotham as a whole, and explore the relationship dynamic between Robin and Batman. more understanding of Bruce and what it's actually like to be a father for him and putting his trust in someone. That bit of connection with him and Alfred was good to see. And Damian trying to learn how to give in and suppress his assassin side. Likewise, expanding more on the dynamic, the rivalry between Damian and Dick to see who's like the better son, I guess. We also get like the whole Court of Owls story just shoved in there, and this is a running trend with these movies. They like have these stories that they are based on, and it usually uses that main story to carry around the story plan that they have laid out for the whole universe. But this is one of the movies that actually got that balance right. At least I think. I've never read the comics, but I'm guessing. But yeah, even regardless, like it did, because although it had that short runtime, it uses like its entire plot and Talon to just add this divide between Damian and Bruce. Was just really fun to explore and see it being used that way. And the Damian Bruce fight was so interesting to watch, and was a good connection to see something that was referenced to it in a later movie. Then we get another Bat Family film, and it was Bad Blood, and this is a film that I enjoyed initially and I still enjoy it, and it's one of my favorites as well, and also one of the first films that somewhat sidelined Bruce Wayne or just a Batman figure for a major chunk of it. And as it's a film expanding and explaining the whole Bat family aspects, this is one that I really love. Mainly because of the fact that Batman is taken away from a huge chunk of it. We see more of Dick Grayson and him spreading his wings, like that conversation he has with Catherine Kane. That's the most we ever see Dick speak out in this universe, and I really hope for future James Gunn DC films, the fact that he wants to make his universe with probably Dick Grayson being Nightwing. We see this version of Nightwing in those movies. And I think the Titans show really tried to show this side of him, but I don't know, those things were not really good. But there is this one scene with Batwoman flirting.
What's a cop supposed to look like?
Not as hot as you. Did I just say that out loud?
Yeah, you did. You're good.
Whoever wrote that scene, you need to have car batteries hooked up on your... Then we see the introduction of the Teen Titan Squad. And I remember this movie being very Teen Titan focused on my first watch, opposed to the title of it, but was surprised by how much of a role the League actually played in this. I mean, the film should have either just been called Teen Titans or Teen Titans X The Justice League, because we don't even see them fight. But I still do not get how the live action DC films never had anything to replicate the personality with the League members here. I'm talking about the Justice League right now. We see this scene with, I know they didn't really give us like a Robin, but I seen this scene with Batman talking about Damian and Superman just giving his opinion, and all of them just look at him funny.
Orders and done what you're told, we'd know more.
Come on, cut him some slack. At least he was trying to...
Those moments, why did we just never get them in the Justice League film?
And my dad thinks I'm difficult.
Have you ever considered boarding school?
But I did find it annoying that after Bad Blood, we get that Damian development. We think he's going to get back a better person and everything. But in this movie, we get Batman versus Robin Damian again. But I just love this clip of Batman, his concern.
And what will we do? Wait for him to pull the moon from the sky?
No, we'll get... He hasn't said anything about doing something like that, has he?
Justice League Dark was one of the next ones I watched after Son of Batman, and I also liked this one, but I never loved it. But one thing I thought this film got perfectly was its opening. We see different parts of the Leaguer's turf, stuff is happening, and it's just how dark they take it. The Superman moments, the Batman moments, all that just combined with the first film to have its own intro segment. I love and I hate the inclusion of Batman. For one, it's Batman, but secondly, we barely get him doing anything in this. But we're introduced to the mythic characters as well as John Stewart, who we never see again in these movies till he dies. At least I think that's him. But Constantine is really great, voiced by Matt Ryan. I love the fact that he always seems to keep on landing these roles for him. But yeah, the Zatanna relationship stuff at its infancy. I think comic book fans might love it, but I just couldn't really understand some of the stuff they were talking about, and I couldn't just be invested in their relationship, which also affected me in Dark Apocalypse. But you know what? It's funny how something happens to Swamp Thing in this movie and we never get any updates on that. But all of a sudden in Dark Apocalypse, he's fine. Then Judas Contract. This is the first of these films with no Batman. But we still got Damian. And I feel like the film suffers from not making it about Damian, But I guess they wanted to put all the other characters in the limelight. But seeing as their stories ended in this film, what was the point really? But still did not stop the writers from making Damian the most hated character in this entire universe. And I never mentioned this, but the Starfire and Dick Grayson relationship, I love it. There are glimpses of it leading to these films, but this was the one that really pressed on it a ton. And Damian and Raven, we start to see them have their little thing, which was nice. Then we took a spin-off of some sorts, and Hell to Pay was one of my favorite movies. Just a bad batch of guys taking a road trip around America in their Ben 10 mobile. The twists and turns this film took with Savage, we see one of his daughters. We also get the one and only, well, one of the 2 times these films actually connect to Flashpoint Paradox. And I like the way that they actually brought him into this film and also nerfed him basically in a way that the squad could deal with him and he won't just be overpowered. But the entire final segment of this movie was super fun, with everyone fighting to obtain these cards and the stakes the card gave it, all good. And I like the film's callback in Dark Apocalypse.
How did Amanda Waller let a lunatic like you become leader of the squad?
Easy! She died. Cancer!
Then Constantine City of Demons. Apparently this was a short mini-series or something, and considering how slow it starts, it was the best idea that they just made this a movie. But we see a bit of the origin of this version of Constantine, which is the only time we have an origin story apart from Throne of Atlantis, but that movie doesn't count. And that's so cool to see, like his past and the mistakes that he made to affect him to become this kind of person, and him trying to like fix his, not really fix his past, but make up for his past by helping his friend. And this film has probably one of the best emotional beats I have seen in anything in this universe. The film also felt like a bit reminiscent of the 2005 movie, which is a good thing. Just a good contained story, probably the only contained story till I guess Wonder Woman Bloodlines. Then the death and the rise of Superman. We'll just do them both together because they're just a better movie combined. And out of all of them, this is the one that felt like the most meta comic book movie in the series. Like, it felt like they were trying to make an MCU-like film, especially considering how much build-up of that second movie is in that first film, trying to make it this cinematic big film, and they succeeded. And the biggest Superman hater, he was done right here, I have to admit. His relationship with Lois, can't believe how much of it they squeezed in here. It was just so good. And also involving Princess Diana too. I love how they didn't just throw that with the relationship in the bin to favor the Lois relationship. And also when he fights Doomsday, we see him helping kids and other people. And aside maybe Wonder Woman Bloodlines, Death of Superman probably has one of the best action direction in this entire franchise, and surprisingly had a lot of League members involved in both films. We see like Clark asking Barry for relationship advice. Wonder Woman is trying to go band for band with Batman.
Wonder Woman merchandise did very well this year. I can step up when the Wayne Foundation falls short.
You're kidding, right?
And even Lex getting his time to shine. But what's his obsession with Superman? Like, come out and just say you love him. He even made a kid for both of them.
Dad?
Then Batman Hush is probably one of my favorites, and it gets so much pushback from, I guess, the comic book fans that say it did not respect the source material. Hey, I watched it and I thought it was great. The best Batman film out of the bunch, maybe because we actually focus on Bruce only this time, and his aura is unmatched. And hey, we finally get that Batman Catwoman relationship. And speaking of Catwoman, towards the end, she's like holding this block and carrying, I don't see, just like this clip. What does she do? What's her workout routine for her to be able to do what, like, how is she able to do that? But I feel off the back of the death and rise of Superman, and 2 years later we got the Long Halloween. I know it's like not the same thing, but still, this movie could have benefited from being a two-parter, because out of all the movies in this universe, this is the one that I definitely say felt the most rushed, especially at the second half when he's trying to unravel his entire plot, just dumping all that lore on us, which personally I feel just prevented it from the potential it had. Then Wonder Woman Bloodlines was easily the worst film out of all of them, and I really wanted to love this, especially considering the last 20 minutes of this movie is the best action you will see in any of these movies. Like, I don't know if they hired the biggest Wonder Woman fan to animate all our fight scenes, because it's always incredible to just watch her in these movies. And even in Death of Superman, her fight with Doomsday was sick. It was, when that thing comes out from her hair, straight cinema. But here, apart from that, it does nothing. I guess they tried to do a proper contained Wonder Woman story, but aside the relationship between Vanessa and her mom, which, what's an L, mother? But apart from that, there isn't really anything carrying this film. The jokes are not funny and all the other characters are boring. We don't care about them. And the movie in particular doesn't do anything for us to care about them. I feel like the Wonder Woman budget was just siphoned into Dark Apocalypse because even the animation looked a bit weird compared to some of the other movies. And onto this series of movies, their premature end, Justice League, Dark Apocalypse War. And for what this movie was, in my own personal opinion, it was perfect. The longest film in the universe, stretching that 90 minutes runtime, and they made sure to make every second count. We see the full growth of Damian and how he literally lost everyone he cared about, Dick, Bruce, Raven, and we see his humility, a character full turnaround. They tried their best with the Constantine thing. It still didn't attach for me, but I see that they tried their hardest, especially the base that they had was dark. Even the Constantine movie, Zatanna was not in that movie, so they couldn't even explore on that. But yeah, also loved his interaction with him and Raven. Just both of them talking magic was super cool. Really upsetting that this film was the end of the universe and started what was supposed to be a new retelling for these characters, but it wasn't really the best way to push it. I mean, it started off well, but that's a video for another day. But yeah, these films, they're not perfect. I would love to believe they did enough with what they had, because for me at least, I can't speak for everybody, they provided a good DC experience, but emphasis on what they had, because these movies, their budget was probably like a Coca-Cola bottle and a bag of crisps. And it's not like the Blu-ray or DVD sales were really bringing a whole lot for Warner Brothers. There were a bit wonky action sequences. The driving of the vehicles, particularly cars, they never looked great. And we got a lot of recycled scenes and things. Like, I noticed in Selina's apartment in Hush, that was just the recycled apartment that Talon was with that other girl from the Court of Owls and Son of Batman. That is also not considered. And yes, I'm going to repeat myself again because I've said this like 50 times in this video. These films are short. Like I think the shortest film is 72 minutes. And the longest film is just 90 minutes. And that was Dark Apocalypse, trying to tie everything together. But I still love these films and I will defend everyone, even Wonder Woman Bloodlines, with my life. I would love to know what your experience of DC has been in the past since you were born, I guess. Thank you for watching this video. Bye.